Where's Highland Village, you ask? Well, we're going to get into that, plus the pros and cons of living there, and we're going to be getting after that right now. What's up, everybody? I'm Kristen Carpentier with the Living in Dallas team, located right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about what it's like to eat, sleep, live, work, play, or buy real estate here in the Dallas, Texas area, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below. Hit that bell for notifications. That way, every single week when we're dropping new content, you'll be the first to know. I'm a licensed realtor here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and my family and I actually moved here just over 10 years ago now, and we have absolutely loved it. So if you have any questions about where to move, what it's like living here, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know what we can do to help you make that smooth move here. Okay, so today we want to dive into Highland Village, Texas, what it's like living there, and maybe a few of those pros and cons that you may want to consider before moving to the area. Now, first up, we want to talk about where Highland Village is. It's actually just north of the town of Flower Mound. We're actually getting requests all the time about the town of Flower Mound. It is a very convenient area to the airport, to downtown, and it has fantastic schools. So the town of Highland Village is just north. It actually shares a lot of the same shopping areas. It shares the same school district, and technically Highland Village is on the smaller side. It's just about 6.2 square miles, so quite tiny. And the population of Highland Village is just over 16,000 people. So not that big, hence why it's combined in a lot with the town of Flower Mound. So especially if you do live here and you live in the Flower Mound area or you've been here for a long time, most of the time Highland Village is just kind of one and the same, all part of the same area. Because if you're shopping in Highland Village, you're shopping in Flower Mound and vice versa. So Highland Village is actually on the north side of FM 407 or Justin Road. And we do talk about this all the time, how Texas has multiple names for your streets. It's just kind of a matter of where you're located. And back in the day, it used to be those farm to market roads, hence why it's like FM 407. And 2499 actually heads north and south straight through the town of Flower Mound and straight up through the town of Highland Village. And 407 heads east and west. Highland Village actually borders on the east side, the 35 East Freeway. And technically, where Highland Village is, it kind of only has one way in and out of town. And the way rush hour traffic can be sometimes, if you're stuck at that intersection of 2499 and 407, it can be a little bit crazy because it's really kind of the only way you have to get up and through town unless you're kind of going through some of the neighborhoods. So one of the pros about living in Flower Mound is its location. It is very convenient to get down to the airport and, like I said, down to downtown Dallas if you're commuting for work. And it's really easy to head down 2499 or the 35 freeway as well. So its location is great. You can get all the way up into Denton. You can get over into the Plano Frisco area, just multiple avenues of where it's located by living in Highland Village. But one of the cons about its location that sometimes people talk about, even though most of the time people don't really think it's that big of a deal, is it's actually in the flight path to DFW Airport. The airplanes all come in straight from, down through Denton, but as it gets down closer into going to the DFW Airport, you can start to hear it a lot more in Highland Village. So Highland Village down through Flower Mound, you're definitely in that flight path for the airport. Granted, most people do say that when you're indoors, it's not like you can really hear it a whole heck of a lot, let alone be bothered by it. But if you feel like being out on the lake or standing or sitting outside on your back patio or in the swimming pool, you can definitely hear it. I'm pretty sure not one person I've ever known says that it's a problem. It's just the fact that you can hear it. So if you're totally against airplanes, you're totally against, being anywhere in that type of flight path, it could technically be a con for you. It's just the convenience and the location of where it's actually located. Another pro for living in Highland Village is the amount of shopping that you have. Now, we might need to talk a little bit more about like your high-end shopping, your boutique shopping, or say you want to go to the mall. In Highland Village, they do have the shops of Highland Village. And they do have, a few little shops in there. It does have a Kendra Scott, Bath and Body Works, Victoria's Secret, and tons of restaurants over in the shops. It also has an AMC movie theater. So if you're wanting like a date night, somewhere to just go grab lunch with your girlfriends, lots of options in Highland Village. They also have a gigantic Walmart, probably one of the biggest Walmarts I've ever seen. I mean, granted, here in Texas, everything is bigger, but they have the DSW, they have the Home Goods and the TJ Maxx, the PetSmart, and multiple gyms in the Highland Village area if you're looking for your workout. But shopping wise, if you are wanting to live in a great community and have multiple shopping options, you're going to find anything you need on a day-to-day basis in Highland Village. They have a Whole Foods as well, and they also have a few other smaller grocery stores. So really anything you need in Highland Village, like I said, on an everyday basis is right there at your fingertips, especially because it's just such a close-knit community right there. Who isn't shopping on Amazon these days? So really anything you need is super easy to head out to do your everyday grocery shopping or your Target or your Walmart runs. Granted, Target is down on the Flower Mound side, but that whole little section is where the whole little section of $24.99 and $4.07 is where you're going to be doing the bulk of your shopping on a day-to-day basis. So a con of Highland Village is probably going to be your nightlife. If you're going to want to be heading out and hearing some great bands or going to some of these higher end restaurants, there's not going to be a whole lot of that in Highland Village. And probably your access over into Flower Mound, you're not going to have tons of options. We do think there are some fantastic restaurants in the area. And just to have a quick date night with your husband or your wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, there's definitely plenty of options. But if you're really wanting a night out on the town, you're probably not going to find it in Highland Village. You're probably going to want to go to the Plano area or maybe even to downtown Dallas. And granted, those areas aren't going to be too hard to get to. It could be maybe 30 minutes to get anywhere around there. But con for nightlife, you're not thinking of a whole lot. And granted, you might be taking a date night to Walmart is probably going to be super high on your list, I'm sure. Another pro for living in Highland Village is its location for lake access. The entire north part of Highland Village actually borders part of Lake Louisville. There are homes that overlook the lake, which are absolutely fantastic. Tons of walking trails. You can go right over on the north end of Highland Village to Pilot Point, and you can have access to take your boat out on the lake. You have access to go rent paddle boards and kayaks. But there's multiple areas that you can just, even if you live right in Highland Village, where you can take your paddle board out and just go spend a day on the lake. There's just multiple areas that you can do that with. In fact, when our daughter was here and in high school with all of her girlfriends, they would go out there all the time just because it was super convenient. So many of her friends lived over in the Highland Village area, and they just would go out all the time. So lake access, if you are moving here and you love being on the lake, being in Highland Village and having access 5 minutes from your house, or even, maybe you have a friend who has a boat dock in their backyard. We love lake life, and any access that we have to it, especially if it's only 5 minutes away, is so fantastic for us. So a lot of people love being able to have that access to the lakes by living in Highland Village. One of the cons that you may think about if you're moving there with your family is the schools. It is part of the Louisville Independent School District, but there's only a few options for schools in Highland Village. They do have 3 elementary schools and 1 middle school, but there's no high school in Highland Village. You actually have to go down into Flower Mound, and it is zoned for Marcus High School if you're living in Highland Village. So technically not a con, but when you're thinking of moving to an area and where your kid's going to go to school, and maybe you think it should be so close, but in fact it is actually in the town of Flower Mound. So I wouldn't probably really consider that a con, because most people are probably commuting to their schools even further away. It's just the fact that Highland Village is actually quite small. So the people in Highland Village love being part of the Louisville Independent School District because it is highly rated. You can go check niche.com or greatschools.org to check those ratings. But Highland Village is going to be part of Marcus High School in the Louisville Independent School District. One of the biggest communities in Highland Village is called the community of Highland Shores. It actually has 1,600 homes within the community, but it is a beautiful area with tons and tons of walking trails. It has multiple community pools, tennis courts, basketball courts, and the trails up there with all the trees are absolutely beautiful. We say it all the time how Texas doesn't have any mountains. Granted, it barely even has any hills, but there are these beautiful rolling hills in through the community of Highland Shores and all throughout Highland Village, which is a huge draw for people moving here. So living in the Highland Shores community is just a fantastic area that people absolutely love living in because of the amenities that it does have to offer. But as for a con in Highland Village, con for living and purchasing real estate is the fact that there's almost no new builds going on in Highland Village. There is one community that has a few new builds left, but they are in the $1 million range. So definitely something to think about if you're looking for a big master plan community, you want something brand new. You're not really going to find that in Highland Village. Most of the neighborhoods are very well established. They have been there a long time, but you can find homes in the range of $400,000 upwards of well over $1 million as well. Obviously, some of these $1 million homes are probably going to be overlooking the lake or much larger with a lot more land in the area. But in a nutshell, it's for the most part pretty built out unless you are going to find a little plot of land that you can rebuild a home on. But people love living in Highland Village. People have loved the community and getting to know what it's like living there. And if you have any other questions about maybe some of the amenities, maybe some of the communities that are in the area, don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to help you make that move here to the Dallas area or even Highland Village for that matter that much easier.